1957, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King delivered a sermon at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. The title of the sermon that day was "Loving Your Enemies," a powerful and challenging message for the times. Dr. King had delivered a similar sermon just a week prior in which he, quote, emphasized that hate for hate only intensifies the existence of hate and evil in the universe. The strong person is the person who can cut off the chain of hate, the chain of evil, and inject within the very structure of the universe that strong and powerful element of love. In both of these sermons, King elaborates on a theology of love, a theology that emerges from the difficult and harrowing challenges of the civil rights movement that was beginning to emerge as one of the most powerful forces of social change in our nation's history. It feels important to notice that these sermons focusing on loving our enemies show up in the presence of two significant events. First, on September 4th, 1957, 9 Black students were blocked from integrating Little Rock Central High School. This event was known as the Little Rock Nine. President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent federal troops to escort the students that day. Second, days later, on September 9th, the Civil Rights Act of 1957 was signed into law, protecting voter rights and making it a crime to suppress voting in the United States. Indeed, as the country was changing on a local and national level, questions about how to build the beloved community in the presence of systemic racism and relentless hate and violence were perhaps the most important moral and ethical questions of our time in a divided nation. And let's be clear, the United States was and continues to be deeply divided. As I listened to Dr. King's sermons this week about loving our enemies, and this is my confession to you this morning, a true confession, I notice a fiery rage in my heart against those who would deny the humanity and divinity of all of God's people, and those who would deport beloved humans, those who would control the right to bodily autonomy, those who feel entitled to limit the reach of the common good and the promises of democracy. I notice in myself a fiery, passionate rage that wants to make the wrong things right, and I try hard to keep the flames of love burning too. When I'm alone with myself in the quiet of the night, I notice that sometimes these are not the same fires. I struggle with loving my enemies at times, and at times I wonder if that is even the right path. And we are all vulnerable to such doubts. And I struggle with Reverend Dr. King's invitation, and honestly, I think this is okay. I think Dr. King wants us to be in the struggle. The struggle, it seems, is structured into the path of freedom. To realize the beloved community, we must be willing to live in the struggle. But here's the thing that feels most relevant today as we sit on the threshold of this election year. Reverend Dr. King's theology is a portal to something big and wonderful. It allows for an imagination beyond the present moment, an imagination of repair and healing. He writes, when you rise to the level of love, of its great beauty and power, you seek only to defeat evil systems. Individuals who happen to be caught up in that system you love, but you seek to defeat the system. Dr. King professes a redemptive love, a love so powerful that it can change the world, a love that redeems all of us from our shortcomings and failures, a love that seeks justice, a love that repairs and heals the world. Dr. King's theology of love is an invitation to imagine a new world, one that includes all of us. We must remember that the beloved community doesn't just appear. We have to create it together. We have to put our faith into action and choose love over and over again, placing it at the center of our individual and collective lives. As we rest, perched on this moment of reckoning, anxious and afraid, let us remember that we have access to the most powerful force in the world, and that we have each other. We are part of a movement that is committed to healing our world, of imagining a future in which we all get free together. Regardless of Tuesday's outcome, and believe me, I know there is a preferred outcome. We, Unitarian Universalists, will continue to reach out into the world with our love. Together, we will continue to be fierce advocates for those most impacted by injustice in our world. We will continue to be advocates for reproductive justice. We will continue to affirm the right for all persons to marry the person that they love. We will continue to celebrate trans and queer communities as divine and beloved among us. We will continue to be passionate protectors of the earth. We will continue to call out racism and systemic oppression wherever we find it. And we will keep reckoning with the work of repair that polarizes our nation. Beyond Tuesday's outcome, we will keep living with love at the center of our lives, remembering these words from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. May it be so, and blessed be.